Yes! I got a new jacket. Do you like the color of my jacket? I needed to go live today just so I could wear my jacket. So, y'alls, hello. My name is Kiki Lovelace, for those of you who don't know me yet, and I am a time abundance and money mentor. I work primarily with 6- and 7-figure wellness business owners, coaches, consultants, creatives, and I help them grow their business, but without sacrificing their family, their alone time, their health, their spirituality. It's pretty much the dream is like what I help my people do. And all my people are impossible goal achievers like myself. And so that's what we go about doing when we work together. So I also own a second business, which is actually my first business, and which is my Pilates and yoga studio here in Berkeley, California, where I'm joining you from. So I'm super excited for this little mini lesson for you today. Today, I'm going to talk about my solopreneur business, which I've been growing for the past 4 years. This month actually is my 4-year anniversary of launching this business. And I have grown it in that time from $36,000 in the first 15 months. I'm going to call it the first year because I had a baby during that time. But in the first 15 months to now, in my 4th year, I'm projected this year in 2021 for $750K plus. I'm like totally holding space, universe, for more than that. But that's what I'm projected to make this year. I just in this past month surpassed my 2020 revenues for my solopreneur business. So that's what got my wheels churning about scaling rapidly as a solopreneur. And that's what I'm going to tell you a little bit about today. So yeah, growing a solopreneur business is very different than, my brick-and-mortar business, which has 24 employees. And is more of a like low to medium tier offers. Our offers are anywhere from $50 in my studio business all the way to maybe, I don't know, $800 a month. And I've grown that to a $500,000 business plus in the last 10 years. And of course, we are regrowing after COVID or during COVID. But my coaching business is a different business model. So my coaching business is value-based, not time-based. I don't charge by the hour. I charge by the potential return on investment that my people can get. And I've have a couple of different coaching packages that serve my people at various stages of scaling their business. But today I want to tell you the 3 main lessons that I've learned about scaling quickly, because 4 years is relatively short. Although I will say it felt like it took me a long time. I know 4 years is not long, but I've been going slow on purpose because I had made the mistake in the past with my first business of really, really growing it from the hustle, from the grind. I worked like 80-hour weeks in my first business for the first 3 years or so. And so I knew when I started the second business that, first of all, I was mom to 2 kids, so that wasn't even an option anymore. But also that I really just didn't want to. I wanted to see if I could do it in a different way and do it in a way that actually was set up from the beginning to support my life and really like my life force more than anything else. So I've done that in 4 years while prioritizing majorly my relationship with my husband and my 2 daughters. And of course, my own physical and mental and spiritual well-being, which is like, I'm a yogi forever, for the last 20 years, pretty much my entire adult life. So that's always been very important to me. And I knew that I wanted to grow this business in a way that was like rock solid steady, because that's how my studio business is now. And I really like that feeling on my nervous system where the sales don't like go drastically up and down, but it's rock steady solid. But I also wanted to make my solopreneur brand an expression of my soul purpose, and like knowing that the ways I like to express my soul purpose are always changing. So I knew I needed a rock solid brand and business, but that could actually evolve with me as I evolve, because I'm always evolving. That's just how I roll. So that's what I've done. And I want to give you some numbers, because some of you are in some of the earlier stages of growing your solopreneur business, or maybe you're just kind of stuck at a stage, and I want to give you an idea of what's possible for you. So in the first 15 months or so, I grew my business to $36,000. At the time, I was already making six figures for my studio business, but I was super stoked. I was like 36,000 extra bucks. And like, in an online business model, in this value-based business model, it's almost all profit. So it's like 90% profit. There's not a lot of expenses, unlike my studio business, which is like, there's a lot of expenses in a brick and mortar business. So that was in like end of 2017, I had the baby. And I spent most of 2018 caring for the baby, but like through 2018. So in 2019, I sold $260,000. That like blew my mind, because in the beginning of 2019, I remember I was in a mastermind and I was like, somebody had said that they had made $200,000 the year before. And I was like, what? Like, I couldn't even believe it. Okay. So that was like my first really like serious year of trying, of like putting some effort in to grow my business. So then in 2020, my sales were a little over $400,000. And then I just hit $400,000 last month. And so now I'm on track for $750K. So that's how quickly I've scaled this business from zero to where I am today. And I want to tell you the three main lessons. So numero uno lesson, have a fucking mentor at all times. So I'm not like new to mentorship. I had a mentor even before I started my first business like 10 years ago, but I have laid down some serious cash on mentorship in the last 4 years. And it started at the very beginning. I hired a coach to help me create my first offer. And that was a $7,000 investment. And I created it and I launched it, and then I had the baby. So I kind of ignored it for a while. But that was, I can't even imagine having done that without her. She was so absolutely invaluable. And because I would have made a million mistakes. I would have priced it incorrectly. I wouldn't have really had an idea of how to put together this offer. I definitely wouldn't have known how to launch it. And I made my first sale within weeks. I mean, I might have made my first sale within the first week, actually. So I almost made like my entire investment back within like a week or two of launching. And then of course I took a little time off to caretake the baby. And then when she was starting to like get on her own 2 feet, literally, then I made my next big investment. That was into a mastermind, which was really designed to help me grow that business. And so I spent 2 years in that mastermind. I think my first investment was like $20K. And during that time, I'll tell you what I learned. I learned a lot about my messaging. I learned a lot about marketing, online marketing. I learned a lot about sales, closing high-end sales. And most of all, I learned about owning my shit. I learned about owning my value and really knowing like who I am on like the deepest spirit level. I learned a ton about boundaries. I learned a lot about calling in like higher and higher levels of my soulmate client and being willing to say no to people who weren't an aligned fit. So I learned so much in those 2 years while I was growing to 200K plus and then more. During that time, I also had hired a Facebook ad strategist. I'm actually not running ads anymore. I love him though. He was wonderful. And from him, I learned, I mean, he did most of it for me, but I did pick it up. I learned a lot about like tech and automations, like strategy stuff that I never would have learned if I hadn't worked with him. So even though he wasn't my official mentor, I really learned a lot about that kind of stuff to the point where it doesn't overwhelm me anymore. I mean, I tend towards very simple tech, very simple sales funnels. And like, I have like a basic thing that I do all the time and it totally works. I just continually am like tweaking my message to be really inspired by my own life and what I'm moving through and learning, and also what I'm teaching my mentees, and also what my mentees are bringing back to me, what they're getting out of our time together and the wins they're having. So I continually tweak my messaging, but my strategies aren't like, I mean, they evolve a little bit, but they're not, it's all pretty basic. And I like it that way. I'm like, during that time, I really learned that I'm super allergic to complicated funnels and complicated strategies. And I also learned that that's okay. I actually learned that it's okay for me to say no when someone suggests you should do a 5-day challenge. It's okay for me to be like, you know what, I'm a mom. I have a little toddler and I'm nursing, and no, I'm just not going to do that. And I will say that that is another piece of, I think, what helped me to grow quickly, actually, although it felt slow at the time, is like, I said no a lot to a lot of suggestions from various people in the industry of, you could grow this way, and you could, and because I was very interested in sustainable growth that did not burn me out, as opposed to exponential growth, which was actually sort of terrifying given what I'm holding with my other business and with my family and all that stuff. So, and now that I think about it, like, yes, I grew it in a way that was sustainable, but it actually has been exponential, really, when you look at it like from that overview place of like, it's only been 4 fucking years, right? Okay, so the other thing, so in the last year, I hired a different kind of mentor, and she's more of a spiritual teacher. I call her my 7-figure manifestation mentor. She's like a spiritual teacher and a success mentor. And I've really seriously been pretty much only working with energetics, alignment, mindset. This is pretty much it, is how I've grown from 400K to 750K plus. Okay, so that's lesson number 1. Have a freaking mentor in your back pocket at all times, and be willing to play around with like learning different aspects. You know, to me, there is strategy that's important, but it's not as important as people say. It's like, sure, you got to learn some sales and marketing, absolutely, but there's a million ways to make $1 million. Okay, so don't overwhelm yourself with too much information. You also need to work with your mindset, because your mindset and your belief systems are a huge part of what makes or breaks you as an entrepreneur. And then this other piece about working with alignment, this is about designing a business that actually works for you, instead of designing a business in a way that someone told you, or the way you think you should or you have to. Okay. Mind blowing. Okay. So lesson number 2, alignment is everything. So let me talk a little bit about alignment, because you might not have ever considered this. You've probably heard the saying that business success is 80% mindset and 20% strategy. I used to think that too, until I started working with alignment. And then I realized it's kind of all just alignment. So yeah, I mean, like I said, very early on, I realized I actually got pretty good at saying no when people would suggest these like complicated lead generation strategies and just stuff I didn't have the bandwidth for, because I was nursing a baby. And for the first 2 years of my business, I was the main caretaker. I'm going to tell you in a minute about retiring my husband. But so I was the main caretaker for my 2 kids, and in charge of like packing up their lunches in the morning, getting them to school, doing the pickups, all that stuff. So yeah, so alignment. So when I started realizing that it was okay to say no, and that I didn't have to feel guilty about it, and that I was just trusting my own body's information about what was going to be right for me and what was not going to be right for me, I sort of allied with that process. And of course, eventually I found a teacher who could teach me more about alignment. And so what I've really learned is that radical discipline of alignment is a huge part of how I've scaled so quickly. And I look at alignment like on every level of my business, you know, from my sales process. Like I recently changed my sales process. I don't even do discovery calls anymore. I just close sales, like $30,000 sales regularly over Messenger, over email. And that works really well for me, not taking the time to have these like hour-long conversations with a prospect. You know, so I look at it at every level. I look at it, my sales, my products and services. I look at it from the place of my contributors, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a moment. From my systems, my back-end systems. I just look at it every single piece. Does this feel aligned for me? And I want you to know that, you know, I know there's some coaches out there that talk about alignment is about what feels good. I just want you all to know it doesn't freaking feel good all the time, because oftentimes it means I have to have difficult conversations with people and say, no, I know this isn't working. Or is this really still aligned for you? It doesn't feel like it is. Or sometimes I have to like for example, like I have to retire a program that has been my bread and butter because it no longer feels aligned in my soul. I did that earlier this year, like my original signature program. I freaking retired that thing that had helped me grow from 0 to 400K plus. I retired it because it no longer felt aligned. Do you think that was easy? Like, that was not that easy for me. That required a huge amount of faith and trust in my own intuition and my felt sense of the ways that I am divinely appointed to serve here. Right? Okay, so alignment is not always rainbows and unicorns. It's actually a discipline, a practice, and it takes a tremendous amount of guts and like backing yourself 150% all day long, every day. So that has been my second lesson, is like alignment 100% all the time. And then the third lesson that I've learned is your contributors matter. And so when I talk about your contributors, it's not just your employees, the people that you work with, maybe your vendors that you hire. Those are all very important. Your coaches, of course, that you hire, because I have hired coaches who are more aligned, and then I've made the mistake of hiring coaches who are not as much aligned. I learned something from every single one, but like, your contributors matter. And I also want to say, your contributors, when you are like a service-based, like conscious entrepreneur, it's not just the people that you work with. It's like your partner is a contributor. You know, the people that you hang out with regularly. Like, I think of my studio team, even though they're not directly helping me with my coaching business, they are my contributors. And so your contributors matter, and alignment between them matters. So I learned the hard way in my first business what it's like to have misaligned team members. And so, and I'm not even going to go into that story today, but like, it wasn't pretty. And I had to learn about how to identify if someone is aligned or misaligned, how to call in more aligned team members that like really are a good fit, not only with their skills, but also with their personality, with their belief systems, all that stuff. And so I have realized with this business how important that was. And so, you know, I really have stayed true to that, like hire slow, fire fast. I actually haven't really had to fire anyone in this business, but I have been really slow about taking people on, and I feel like I've done a really good job with it. So I've had supporting me for 3 of the last 4 years. She's amazing. She's like, she has a totally different brain than me. She's very systems oriented. And honestly, she sort of worked herself out of a job because everything is so freaking efficient in my business now. I also, besides my coaches, I've also had at various times, I had a marketing assistant. Again, my teams are so efficient that they eventually work themselves out of their jobs because we set up the systems to really support, you know, the fact that I like to do my messaging, I like to do my marketing, and the systems are all there. So I can just like copy paste the things across the channels, and it's super easy and very quick, and it doesn't take a lot of time. So, and then I had my Facebook ad strategist for a while. He was an amazingly aligned team member. And I will tell you, one of the most important team members is my husband. Okay. So about 2 years in, well, actually literally 2 years ago this month, I said to him, you know, babe, I'm doing some amazing things in this coaching business, and I feel like I could take it like to the moon, but I can't do it if I'm in the main caregiver for our kids. He freaked out. And then I just walked away and I did not push it. But within like a couple days, he came back to me and he's like, okay, I get it. Let me take a step back. So he took a step back. This is before the pandemic. Thank God he did take a step back before the pandemic, because then he became daddy homeschooler this past year and a half, you know? And honestly, he's very well suited for this job. He's total homesteader. Like, that's how he is anyway. And he's such a freaking great dad, and the girls love having him around. But that has been a huge piece of it. And so I know not everyone can retire their husband, okay? But I'm just sharing this with you because having help at home has been a huge part of how I have scaled my solopreneur business. So can we just like highlight that and bring that forward? And I want you all to know, like, I don't have mompreneur, like mom guilt. Like, I just literally don't have it, because I know that my kids are well supported. They're with their dad, which is like a miracle, you know, and I know that not everyone has that privilege, but like, they're very well supported. They're super well cared for. I also have created a business that doesn't take me that much time. So I actually spend a lot of time with my kids. And yes, like if I try to work from home, they totally are up in my business and I can't get anything done. So I just don't. I just have boundaries. Like I'm just like, I'm going to work now. And they're like, don't go. And I'm like, I'm going, love you, bye. And it's fun for me. It's fun for me to come to this space, to come to my office, to be separate from them, and then to be able to come home and turn off my phone and like not look at it all night, and just really be as best as I'm able to present with them. So that has been a huge, huge part of how I've scaled my business is I have had help at home. Okay, y'all, that's like, nobody ever talks about that, but when you are a mom, it's like very, very important to have a copious amount of support on the homestead as well as in the business. So I want y'all to know that I am leading a private masterclass. It's a free masterclass on Thursday at 11 a.m. PST, which is what I think it's 2 p.m. EST. And I'm just doing this for a very small group of solopreneurs, 6 and multi-6-figure solopreneurs who want to learn more the how. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail of like how to scale quickly, even though it's going to feel slow. So how to scale quickly. This is on Thursday. There's an application. I have 20 public spots. I just announced it yesterday. 2 of them are gone. So I have 18 left. Message me for the application and I will send it your way. I would freaking love to give you this map for how to do this relatively quickly and in a way that allows you to prioritize your relationships, your health, your life force. All right, y'all. I hope this is helpful. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it. I'll talk to you soon.